Okay, so normally when people reach out to me as a realtor, there's some kind of intake form. As a process, I'm going to be asking you all these kind of questions. Ultimately, what I need to know is your price range, number of bedrooms and bathrooms, square footage, that kind of stuff, the nuts and bolts of what it is. We can get into the touchy-feely later on, right? But honestly, I love starting there. I'd rather just have a conversation with you and kind of go from there. Because most people don't really say, I want a 4-bedroom house. What they actually say is, I want to look at homes. And they always know where or why yet. They don't always know that. So today Phil's back with us on the channel. He's coming down here from the Buffalo area. And he's kind of bringing some questions that he has that I actually hear all the time. But I want to have everyone understand what it's like relocating to Florida. And you're a perfect candidate for that because you're considering it too. So we're just going to talk through them the same way I do with real clients. No checklist, no pressure, just a real conversation. How's that sound?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of questions here. Can't wait to get into it.
Let's go. And as always, this information is on the house.
Okay, so my first question is, where in Orlando should I actually move?
Okay, so that's a really good question because you don't know the area. What I would go into at this point would be, what's your lifestyle like? What are the things that you need? Do you have school-age children? Are schools important to you? Or do you like going to the beach? Do you like East Coast beaches, West Coast beaches? Do you like theme parks? What kind of work do you do? How long of a commute are you willing to put up with? We have toll roads everywhere when we get around, so there's a budget that needs to keep in mind for your commute, not just time, but budget, because toll roads, depending on where to where, could be $20 a day. So that adds up really quickly in your overall scheme of things. So that's kind of personalized to everybody's situation.
So how do I figure that out if I've never been there?
Well, I'm gonna ask you those exact questions, and we're gonna kind of figure that out. Like, so where do you work? That's what I'm gonna start off with first. And how long do you want your commute? Then I'm gonna draw a radius of, okay, if you live, say you work, you're going to be working in Lockheed Martin down by Universal Studios. So, and you want your commute to be 30 minutes or less. Okay, I know just from personal experiences, I do a lot with Lockheed Martin, people relocating here from other states, that I know Claremont would be a good destination, Winter Garden, all the way up to Lake Nona and Altamont Springs. So that's a pretty big radius. So there's a lot of age of homes, style of homes, new communities, resales, school districts, and even different counties, because St. Cloud, Lake Claremont, and Altamont Springs are all 3 different counties. So we've got a really broad search area that we can look in. So I'm just going to narrow it down by those first, and then we'll get into more of the specs of the house, because ultimately, if you need 4 bedrooms, there's 4-bedroom houses in every city and every county in Florida. So I don't care about that right now. I need to know what are the things that we can't mitigate, and commute time is usually one of those things that people want to spend more time with their family. They don't want to be on the road, so that's usually where I start. And then schools are probably one of the second ones, because some counties have better schools. If you want to be in Orange County public school system, it doesn't have the greatest reputation, but a lot of them have good grades, so to speak. But Seminole County outperforms everything else around Orlando. Yeah, so I might push you into Seminole County if schools are one of your top priorities.
So they say to learn from others' mistakes.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest mistakes people make moving to Orlando area?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I'm not sure how to answer that. Mistake-wise, some people do rent first, so they get to know the area, and I don't always advise that, because then you're going to be playing catch up, because prices might go up, interest rates might go up while you're waiting, while you're renting. And to get out of a lease, if you find the perfect home while you're renting, to break that lease costs a lot of money. So a mistake could be just not pulling the trigger. Having too much hesitation can sometimes cost you in the end.
If I work from home, does location matter?
Ultimately, no. Then we get more into the lifestyle. Are you a beach person, theme parks? What do you do for fun? Are your kids going to school? Is that going to be a big part? Because your location is stagnant, but your kid's school, if that's an important aspect of this, you're not going to give up your commute to work at home to only drive your kids an hour each way to
Right.
school. So those are the kind of things. Then I'm going to get into more your lifestyle versus your needs.
So if someone says, I want to live in Orlando, what follow-up questions do you ask?
Yeah, Orlando, it's not as big as New York or LA or anything, but it's a pretty big metro area. And like I mentioned, it covers essentially 6 counties. So we've got a really broad search area. Orlando, again, it's going to come down to the basics more often than not. Commute times, work, schools, lifestyle. So where you want to be. Do you travel a lot? Is being close to the airport important to you? Because I can put you up in Oviedo and I can put you in the Villages, completely opposite ends of the spectrum of being in Orlando, but to the airport, one is 30 minutes, one's an hour and 20 minutes.
I'd want the 30 minutes.
Yeah, of course. So, but if you travel a lot, if you're going back to Buffalo, I imagine you're still going to have a lot of family there once you relocate here. Those commute times to the airport are vital to you. So you don't want to be getting a 6 a.m. flight and having to get up at 1 a.m. to make it, right?
True.
So it really depends. It comes down to your lifestyle and what you do for work.
Well, speaking of towards that, I do like beaches.
Okay.
And can I get the best of both worlds being in?
Absolutely. So I don't know. I've never really researched this, but I've always heard that there's no place in Florida that you're not more than an hour away from a beach or an ocean, let's say, because you can, if we head due east of, or due west of where I live in Claremont, you're not going to really hit a beach, but you're going to find the ocean. It's the Gulf of Mexico, actually.
Right.
But you can see it's really cool because you can go to Cocoa Beach from Orlando, which is about 40 minutes away, 45 minutes away, depending on where you're at, and watch the sunrise, and then drive across the strait right off. You can almost stay on the same road, take you all the way to the West Coast, watch the sunset all in the same day. So that's really cool. But there are pretty big differences between East Coast beaches and West Coast beaches. East Coast beaches, in my opinion, are hard-packed sand. A lot of the beaches on the East Coast, you're allowed to drive on them. And they're more pet-friendly things. The West Coast beaches are more fluffy, white, powdery sand, but not as good as surfing. So it really kind of depends on what you want. But yes, so the short answer is whether you're in Claremont or Avalon Park, you shouldn't be more than 45 minutes to an hour away from a beach.
So where do the locals go versus tourists to the beaches? Yeah,
so locals, the most popular is New Smyrna Beach, I'm going to say.
And that's tourists or for locals?
That's for locals.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So they're going to head up to New Smyrna and Cocoa for the most part because those are the easiest access. You also in Cocoa Beach you get rocket launches as a bonus, so you can go straight out there. Kennedy Space Center and all that's right out there. And New Smyrna is just a small town feel. It's got good surfing, some really great restaurants there, and it is affordable, right? So. But those are the more hard-packed sand beaches. For tourists, they're going to go. Cocoa Beach is another tourist destination because of the same reasons, right? But locals like it too. I'm personally a more West Coast beach because I like the white fluffy sand. So whenever someone asks me that question, I'm always going to ask those questions, and then I'm going to kind of float them towards the West Coast probably.
So if the beach is the beach access is important to me. Does that change where I'd want to move into Orlando?
Yeah, because again, it's commute times and affordability. Because again, from where I live in Claremont to get to New Smyrna, I have to hit like 3 different toll roads. The Turnpike, the 408, and another toll road up further forth. I think it's 414 or 429. But it's about a 2-hour drive for me, and it's going to cost me $10 or $15 in tolls. So I might be better off hitting the West Coast beaches because I can get there for free, and I like those beaches better, so it's better for me. But if you're looking for East Coast beaches, live on the east side of Orlando. You can avoid most of the tolls. You can easier a straight line to the beach, and versus me, I have to go through all these loops and toll roads just to get up there.
A lot of traffic?
A lot of traffic, yeah. Typically, especially on weekends when we've got a lot of the theme park traffic and people heading back up your way to New York, taking 95 because you have to cross over 95 to get to those beaches. Sure. So you're going to hit all that traffic depending on what day it is, either incoming traffic into Florida or outgoing. So you're always going to hit that, especially around Daytona Beach too.
So, kind of talking about the tourism, if someone isn't into theme parks, is it still matter? If
Absolutely, yeah. When I've been here about 21 years. I lived here in the early 90s when I was quite a bit younger. Then I came back in 2005, and I've been here ever since. And when the connotation was, that's all Orlando is theme parks. That's all it is. Now we've really blossomed into technology and medicine and health and wellness and those kind of things. And tourism and theme parks are the bonus almost. So it's the lifestyle here is kind of taken first seat to being, because I get a lot of people that I want a house that faces the fireworks so I can see the fireworks every night. Cool. That's a must have for them. That's non-negotiable. And there's other people that like, cool, it's right down the road. I can take my kids there, but it's not something that it's going to make or break, where I choose to live. But absolutely, you can live in Orlando and not have to deal with tourism traffic or tourists, or in all the things that come along with that. Sometimes there's crime associated with tourism because they're easy marks. Sometimes the tourists get taxed a little more because they're renting cars and hotels and they're kind of paying a lot of the state taxes in Florida. So we welcome them, but it's easy to avoid. So what the locals do instead of just going to the theme parks? Oh gosh, Orlando's got a really thriving scene. We've got Michelin rated restaurants now because of Disney has brought, the theme parks have brought all that here. They brought top-notch restaurants and thinking, ideas, creativity to this area. So lifestyle is a big part of it. The beaches, and then you come inland, we've got a lot of natural springs, and we've got like the West Orange Trail and hiking and biking trails. We're not really mountainous or anything, but outdoors certainly is a big part of what attracts people here, and the year-round weather. What parts do attract the nature-bound folks? Yeah, most of that honestly is going to be found a little bit north of the city in Seminole and Volusia counties, and a little bit of Marion. We've got the Ocala National Forest. We've got different springs. If you go over to the West Coast, over in the Brooksville area, you've got the Manatee areas. So there's a lot of natural things, but most of them are up in Seminole County. Not that other places don't have it, like in Claremont, we've got a big state park, Lake Louisa State Park, where you can rent little cabins and fish and hike and hunt and things like that. But so it's all around us, but the most part of it is in Seminole because they value the protection of the county and their natural resources more than the Orlando does on growth and population. Okay, so I want to thank Phil. He's got a lot more questions, and we're going to cover those next week. So if you want to scan the QR code on the screen, it'll really help understanding what moving to Florida is all about. And as always, this information is on the house.